How are the connections between hunger and climate change made? Firstly, they're made through myths. They're made through myths because the first myth is that chemical agriculture produces more food. It's not true. Chemical agriculture produces more commodities. Commodities are not food. Commodities are traded and they can be used substitutably between grain feed for livestock when we should be having good herbivore feed for herbivores. It could be used for biofuel. Now, of course, they're talking, the approval for potato in Germany. I remember when the debate was there on the genetically engineered potato, the government responded and said it's not food, it's going to be for furniture and industrial starch. They want us to be in a world of biomass where you can make a door, run your car, and feed yourself with the same anonymous biomass. And of course, human beings will be last in line because industry will always have first priority. They have more purchasing power, they have more ability to lobby and change rules, etc. There's a second myth associated with this, and that is that fossil fuels are at the heart of growth, and growth is at the heart of removing poverty and hunger. My country is such a dramatic example of how this is not true. We've grown at 9% for the last few years. Our hunger and poverty has grown even higher levels. India is now the capital of hunger in the world. Per capita consumption has dropped from 170 kilograms to 150 kilograms in the 15 years while we were shooting up in GNP and GDP measurement. So growth does not lead to hunger and poverty removal, and the use of fossil fuel is definitely not contributing to reduction of poverty and hunger. In fact, it's contributing to creation of it, and agriculture is a very clear example. The first level at which hunger is created is by the shift from ecological systems, internal input systems, to systems of external inputs, largely fossil fuel. Chemical fertilizers based on fossil fuels then emit the nitrogen oxides that are one of the greenhouse gases that Patrick just mentioned. These external input systems force monocultures. When we allow nature to play a role, nature celebrates diversity. The livestock can be there, the tree can be there, diverse species can be grown on your farm. Nature cycles thrives on diversity. External input chemical agriculture requires monocultures, just as much as fascism requires monoculture. I call industrial agriculture the fascism of the land, where you have to have monocultures. It's a monoculture of the mind, creating monocultures of the farm. So if you travel the world where agriculture has been industrialized, you will see miles and miles and miles of maize. Then you'll see miles and miles and miles of canola. You'll see miles and miles and miles of soya. You come to the tiny arid farms of India, which have not been destroyed by the Green Revolution, which was the name given to chemical agriculture when it was introduced in India. What we find is every farmer's field has 200 species grown in beautiful cooperation and harmony with each other. The trees are there, the livestock is there, and each of them is completing a cycle of renewal. The monoculture has been presented as having brought India out of hunger. It's not true, because we produce more rice and wheat at the cost of everything else. The individual farms went from mixed farming to monocultures, and different regions that grew different crops, the millets, the maize, the pulses, the oilseeds, all became large-scale monoculture of rice and wheat. And if you only grow rice and wheat, you will have more rice and wheat no matter how you grow it. And we've done calculations to show that if that much land was put under organic farming, we'd have had an equivalent increase of rice and wheat production. We did not need chemical farming. The increase is totally accounted for by land conversion. Exactly as now soya increases are accounted for by land conversion, including the Amazon being cut down. It's not because suddenly Roundup ready soya is producing more soya. No, it's not. It actually has a yield drag. The second very vital issue in this is, I realized when I did the critique of the Green Revolution, I could, with my eyes, see farms that produce more food, and yet the data always showed more yield. And I realized that's where the trick was taking place. You replace output, which is diverse, which yield, which is singular, and then you can constantly make a monoculture system look more productive, even though overall it's producing less food. And it's producing less food at higher cost. In the name of this false efficiency, where have we reached? 10 units of fossil fuel energy are being used to produce 1 unit of energy in food. And then if you take factory farming, 10 units of food is being converted to 1 unit of protein, animal protein, which means in this system of growing soya in Argentina and the Amazon, and shipping it to Europe, and feeding the animals in factory farms, we are taking 100 units of available energy for food and converting it to 1 unit. If we do organic farming, ecological farming, we can take that 1 unit and turn it into 2 to 3 units of available edible biomass, plus the fodder for the animals, plus the fiber for our clothing, and quite clearly we are going the wrong way. That gap of available energy for human need in terms of food is the pollution that's adding up in the skies. The loss in available food for people is the increase in available pollution in the air. Our calculations are that 40% of all greenhouse gas emissions are coming from an insane system of industrializing agriculture, globalizing production, and transporting food hundreds of miles and thousands of miles away, a point that Maurice Strong made about long distance transport. And at the end of it, we're getting less food, more waste, and worse food. I really believe we are at that threshold where food can disappear. Because food only comes from embodied soil and embodied labor of loving care of people, of farmers. We are at the verge where we are being told, in India the Green Revolution drove out the pulses. We are a land of eating dals, as you know. And since we are vegetarians, most of our protein comes from the pulses. The pulses were driven away by the monocultures of the Green Revolution, and now we have a huge scarcity of pulses, and prices are 100 rupees a kilogram. The poor can't eat it.